Good morning. We're here at the greenhouse and we wanted to show you a little bit about EC meters and testing water and fertilizer and how simple it is but important it is. I have in my hand I have a EC meter which is made by Hanna Company. It's a very simple, reliable meter, runs on hearing aid batteries and it measures in ppm, parts per million. And right now it's measuring 0 because it's not sitting in any solution. And it also gives you the temperature, 18.7 degrees centigrade. So we'll start off with some Crystal Geyser spring water, just as a comparison. These are the electrodes down on the bottom, which take basically an electroconductivity measurement. That's what EC stands for. And that measures the salts that are in solution, and there's ionic charges that this will detect. So it's measuring 59 parts per million for Crystal Geyser water. We've got some smart water, which I believe is sort of purified water, and then they add salts, calcium, they add calcium carbonate and a few other minerals, magnesium chloride, potassium bicarbonate. But it's basically RO water, so everything has been taken out of the water, reverse osmosis, and then they add back in these various salts or chemicals so that it has a little flavor and gives you a little something. But it's very, you can see this is 28. So naturally occurring water from up near Mount Shasta, it was 60 parts per million, because in the groundwater there are naturally occurring minerals that this will detect. And smart water, which is totally purified water, much like Dasani bottled water. Many of the bottled waters you buy have been purified, all the salts removed, and then they add a few just for the taste. Okay, now we'll go to San Francisco City water. Go right out of the tap. And it fluctuates, but today it's 45 parts per million. Sometimes it's 25, 30, it'll go as high as, it'll go as high as 100, but not in a long, long time. So 45 is good. So it's right in the middle of these two bottled waters. And as I mentioned in the little article, anything under 100 parts per million is perfectly safe and good for the plants without causing any damage. So this is a Dosatron cart that in the reservoir here we mix our concentrated fertilizer. It's a little bit low right now, it's down at the bottom, but there is the fertilizer concentrate in the tank. The actual injector, the Dosatron Injector, is this apparatus here, and basically your tap water goes in. This is a backflow device, goes through the injector, and it will inject. Right now it's set at 1 gallon of fertilizer to 50 gallons of water, so it's a 1:50 ratio. And then it comes out. This is a little particle filter, which probably should be on this side of the injector to keep any particles from going into the injector. And then it comes out, whoops, I'm backwards here. Comes through the water comes in this way, goes through the filter, through the injector, and then out onto the hose. This is a backflow device that prevents any of the fertilizer from coming back into the unit. So we'll just connect our hose to the output. And then this is the input hose. So the city water is going into the injector, and the whole unit is powered by the water pressure, normal water pressure from the city line. So when you turn on the water, you hear the metering function of the injector. It's going to take a while for the fertilizer to work its way through the hose. But it's sucking up the fertilizer through this hose in the tank, going into the unit, and then out into the hose. This is the fertilizer that Sun Moon has been using for the poinsettias. So we start at 0, dip it into the unit, and so it's 450 roughly parts per million of fertilizer. And then I like to check it a couple times, make sure it's dosing the proper amount. So it's going up a little bit to and that's basically the pure water that was in the hose is being sort of, so we're sort of stabilized at 450 parts per million. So what that means is we started out at 45 parts per million in the basic city water line, and then we've added the fertilizer, so the plants are getting roughly 400 parts per million of fertilizer. 45 plus 400 gives you 445, 450. So that's sort of on the low end for the poinsettias. What we would like is 500 to maybe 750 parts per million to promote the growth. But this is perfectly adequate. And the fertilizer, Sun Moon, and most nurseries will switch from different fertilizers to provide different nutrients. This is a CalMag fertilizer, so it has calcium and magnesium along with nitrogen, phosphorus, potash. We'll go into fertilizers later, but it's a way to, we have 2 injectors here, by using different injectors and different fertilizers, we can provide the exact nutrients that the plants need at the exact levels that we would like. And so that's how a Dosatron works. It's a unit like this is roughly $350. You need to connect the various backflow and filters to it. The cart is actually the expensive part. It's, I think, $600 or $700. But the portable cart allows you to go between this greenhouse and the next. And if you have outdoor space, it's very portable. You can move it wherever you'd like, as opposed to having it connected directly to the water line in a fixed location. So why don't we go take a look at the poinsettias and see how they're doing after 10 weeks or so, I think. Okay, we're in the Poinsettia Greenhouse, and just to give you sort of an update on the plants, and you can see that they've grown out quite a bit. All the small shoots that were at the leaf axils have developed, and this particular plant has 7 growing points, so hopefully we'll have 7 heads of bracts. The greenhouse, there's no whitewash in here, so with this past heat that we've had, Sun Moon has had to water basically every day, the entire greenhouse. This damage on this leaf here is as a result of the heat, a little heat damage. The plant most likely dried out slightly, and it got a little heat damage. The edge here, that's what that is. But all things considered, if you look, sort of pan through the greenhouse, the plants look remarkably good for the extreme heat that we experienced the last week or so. It's very unusual to get 100 degrees, 90 degrees temperatures this time of year when poinsettias are growing. The temperature in the greenhouse here at one point got up to 110, and that's how you get this heat damage. But Sun Moon's been on top of it, and you could also see the plants. Originally there were 7 plants in a row. They've been spaced out to pretty much their final spacing, which is 4 plants. And where we had half the greenhouse filled initially, the entire greenhouse is now filled with poinsettias. So they're, since they were planted roughly the end of August, about 6 or 8 weeks, they've really taken off. We tried a little experiment by adding some slow release fertilizer, which is a granular, it's this gray pelletized fertilizer. It's called NutriCoat. It's a slow release balanced fertilizer that releases very evenly, releases every time the plants are watered. So we wanted to see if there was any difference in the way they grew. These are the white poinsettias. This is the only group where it made a difference. And you can see it's not significant, but they're slightly, the leaves are slightly bigger, slightly greener, plants are slightly taller, but not significant. On all of the red varieties, there's virtually no difference. And I think that's because the plants are getting liquid fertilizer every time they're watered. So they're getting lots of fertilizer, and the supplement really is not adding to that tremendously. And the plants are growing so fast that it's not, on orchids you would see a difference, but on these you're not really going to notice it. But Sun Moon's doing a great job, and it's a lot of work. I mean, having to water 1,000 plants every day is really something. And commercially, when we talked about irrigation and drip irrigation, many of the commercial nurseries will have little drip spaghetti tubes in each pot. And so they could just turn on the water, and each pot will be getting a proper amount of water without having to manually spend the time to water each one. And when Sun Moon waters poinsettias, she waters them from below and not just sort of randomly on top. You want to keep the water off the leaves to prevent any bacterial or fungal infections. Mostly it would be botrytis. It would be a fungus that would attack the new growth of the plants. So it's very labor intensive to manually water each of these from the base. When we talked about irrigation, there was a little demonstration of an ebb and flow system. Ebb and flow would work quite well with poinsettias. The plants sit in basically a trough that fills with water, and they're watered from the base up, so no water would get onto the foliage at all. So far so good. The plants hopefully will be coloring up in the next few weeks. They'll hopefully attain a height of this size or so, but we'll see how it goes and give you a progress report every week or two. What's in there? Go get them. What's in there? What are you looking for? What are you looking for?